week we're going to be working with a portrait. Now, you can find a portrait of any type of explorer that you would want. This week I am going to take a look specifically at Ernest Shackleton, and we are going to get some lines to help you figure out how to draw a human face. Because a lot of the time when we look at portraits of human faces, we're seeing people as they actually appear. You might make some lines and shapes that don't necessarily look like a face to make it look like an actual person. What I'm going to do is start off by showing you some techniques to make a human face look proportionate, which means all of the parts are kind of working together. We're going to start off with a circle. I like to start off with circles to make things a little bit easier for me to see how the person's face is going to look, and circles make it easier to get the top of their head. Now I'm going to work around this with a whole bunch of little lines to try to figure out where everything's going to be, and that's going to represent the top of Shackleton's head and leading onto about where the nose is. From here, what I'm going to do is bring down the lines on either side of the face, because usually the top of people's heads is bigger than the lower portions. And I'm going to bring this down to create almost an oval. Now, Shackleton has a really strong jaw, which is the lower part of the head. And I'm going to bring that in to show the jawline and the chin here. These are going to be fairly straight and then angled downward and creating a chin. From here, I'm going to get a line that travels down the very center of the head. This is going to help me measure out the different parts and the different sides of the head. Then, from this line at the very top to the very bottom, I'm going to make about a line halfway down. That's going to represent where the eyes are going to be located on Shackleton. And I'm going to get just some almond shapes on either side, starting off with a circle on either side and then bringing them in to make an almond shape like the nut. And I'm going to do that on either side of the head. There aren't any lines here for an iris or a pupil or anything like that. I'm going to keep it really simple. Halfway down from this eye line to the bottom of the chin is going to be the nose line. So I'm going to take a look at this distance and I'm going to make a line here. That's going to represent where the nose of our person is going to lie. And I'm going to make a U shape on here to represent where the nose is going to be. Now, some people may have wider noses, some people may have smaller noses. It depends on the person you're looking at. Finally, I'm going to make a line about halfway down from that nose line to the chin, and that's going to be about where the mouth is going to be. Going straight across in that fashion, I'm going to make the lips. And in this, there's going to be two peaks, two upper portions that come up and then descend down to make the upper lip, and then a lower portion which is going to be a line to represent the lower lip. So we're getting all of that kind of in to figure out where everything's going to be. Next, we're going to take a look at the hair. Now, Shackleton has a very high hairline. It's going to be about here. Most people's hairlines are going to be from either the top of the head to the bottom of the chin, somewhere about halfway. His is a little bit higher, and I notice that it comes up on the sides over here, and then comes down to form the area around where his ears are. So I'm going to draw that on either side, looking at his hairline, bringing it down from here. Now, sometimes hair comes up above the top of the head, and in Shackleton's case, he has a part in the middle here, and it's going to bring up on either side, and I'm going to get some lines that represent that part in the hair. Just some changes on either side, bringing it up. And then carrying that hair over to the side. He has used a lot of oil in his hair in the image that I'm looking at, and I'm going to bring that out to either side, here and here. Now, there are some parts on the face that we haven't done yet. And with that, I can start working with some different shapes. Now, Shackleton has some pretty serious eyebrows, so I'm going to bring those eyebrows up around the side of the head and bring those to a furrowed brow in the center, which means they're going to come forward and they're going to angle downward a little bit to make those strong angles. Some people may have angled eyebrows, some people may have more thin eyebrows. It depends on who you're looking at. And Shackleton has some really strong eyebrows, so I want to bring that across. Not only that, but he's got some strong bridge to the nose. Now, the bridge is the part of the nose that's long and thin that goes from your eyes all the way down to the tip of the nose. So I'm going to make some lines to represent that bridge. I'm not going to darken it in or anything yet. I want to get an idea of where that is. On either side of the nose, there are going to be nostrils. That's where the holes of the nose are, and I'm going to get that on either side as a couple of shapes. And then I can draw the nostrils underneath the tip of the nose on either side. Depending upon whom you're looking at, it's going to look differently. Now, Shackleton has kind of a stern expression in the look that in the image that I'm looking at. So I'm going to bring that down on either side, kind of have him frowning here because he's looking kind of serious, and then draw a line for his lower, to separate his upper and lower lip. He also has a pretty strong chin, so I'm going to make a curve to kind of represent that chin, and he's got a little divot, a cleft in his chin as it brings up, so I'm going to get that on either side as well. I'm going to round out some of these lines to help that out, and I'm going to get some ears. Shackleton has some ears that come off of the side of his head peeking near his eyebrow here, and then coming down and resting probably right around where his nose is. One of the things that's great about drawing portraits is that you can use shapes that you've already drawn to help give you some information of other parts. And Shackleton's ears kind of stick out on the side of his head a little bit, so I'm going to get those both on either side and bring those down here. Now we can start getting in a little bit of definition into the eyes. Now, the portrait that I'm looking at doesn't have a lot going on with the eyes too clearly. I can't see the pupils or the irises. And sometimes we look at portraits of people and can't see them clearly. So I'm going to come in and draw the shapes that I see. Now, I don't see the eyes clearly, so I'm going to come in and use a dark line to kind of define that eye on this side, and he's going to have a definition of the eye on this side. I do see a little bit of white and the beginning of his pupil, so I'm going to get it on that side, and then this is going to join up and get some of the shadow that's around his eyebrow. And I'm going to bring that up because sometimes photographs that we look at are really old and it might be difficult for us to see a lot of details, and that's okay, because what we can do is use value. We can use dark and light to get some really strong contrast in our portraits, and as long as our shapes are where they need to be, we can get some really cool values, lights and darks that are present. He's got some strong lines near the side of his face, so I'm going to incorporate these and get that strong value there as well. And I'm going to do it on the other side here. Now, a lot of faces have some really strong values. They have differences in dark and light, especially old photographs, black and white images. So I'm going to go in and use some strong values in my pencil here to get some of the hair. I'm going to place that down first, just using the side of my pencil and adding some value, some differences in dark and light to get those. Now that we've got that set, what I can start doing is add some different value. some different lights and darks based off of this. I've got the really, really dark sections. So I'm going to go in and start working with some lighter values. Sometimes the area underneath the eyebrow and into the nose is going to be a little bit darker. He's got a furrowed brow, a very stern expression. So I'm going to start getting that in and add some value around the eyes here to help that out. There's also some area around the nose and underneath the eye that kind of helps form the shapes of the head that's there. So I'm going to draw these in as well to try to show the strong expression. Looking at a photograph helps out a lot. It'll give you a good frame of reference. You can also go in as you are sketching these and erase any lines that you used for guidelines that you don't need anymore. So now that I've got some of these taken care of, I'm going to go in and erase some of these lines to make it a little bit clearer and a little bit easier for me to work. There we go. Sometimes you don't need to draw every single line or outline everything to get really nice value. So we've got that section on that side of the face. This side of the face is a little bit darker, so I'm going to use my pencil to start getting some lines on this side of the face to define the nose. He's got a pretty chiseled nose, so I'm going to draw this shape and have it come down to the tip of the nose on either side, giving some clear definition to the nostrils and other parts of the face. There's a lot of shadows underneath. He's got a little divot underneath his nose near his lips, so I'm going to get that and add some shading as well. I'm not pressing as hard with my pencil for this part because I really want to get the light and dark sections that are present. He's got some pretty strong value underneath his lips in the beginning of the chin. So I'm going to round part of that out and help get that darker section that's underneath. This side of his face is a little bit darker, so I'm going to be adding some value to this, some light and dark, to try to help show where the light is coming from. And he's a little bit older, so there are some lines underneath his eyes to show that age. Now you might be looking at a different picture of Shackleton than I am, so you might have a beard, or you might have different facial features, or you might be looking at another explorer altogether. The important thing is that you're looking at a picture or someone else's drawing to give a good idea of what these people looked like. And we want to try to bring as much as we can to the drawing that we've got so that we can see the light and dark sections that are there to bring out the face. Some of these areas we just need to press down a little bit harder with our pencil and a little bit lighter in others. I'm going to finish off with some value over here on the side and then press down a little bit harder in areas like the hair, because he's got some pretty dark hair. I'm going to use a lot of pressure to make that hair darker in the areas that it needs to be dark, and then use some lines to help show where the hair is flowing to. You don't have to color the hair or use the same marks throughout. You can change it up. Make some areas lighter, some areas darker. Even if somebody has black hair like Shackleton, we can get some variations in light and dark because they're not going to look the same. Light is going to hit these different parts differently so that we can create some really dark and really light sections. We're in control. We know what we can do to make these areas lighter or darker and make them easier to see or easier to find. Remember, you don't need to make all of your figure or all of your face completely clear. We're looking at the shapes that we see to get a better understanding of how everything is going to look. And you can always make changes as you move along. There might be some subtle differences that you want to make, or some areas that you think need to be darker or lighter. And you can always change those with your pencil or whatever tool you use to draw. We want to find those really dark and really light sections to give us greater sense of control over the piece so that you look and know how your image looks. We want to really get that nice change in value, light and dark, so that your picture looks like the person that you're trying to draw. And sometimes all it takes is a little bit of light and dark. Not much more than that. I'm going to finish off here with the lips, making some strong lines and strong values so that we can see that this looks like Shackleton. Any explorer that you want to make, go ahead and create. Or, if you want, you can follow along with this video and try some techniques to make some really nice values. I'm going to finish off with some shading underneath the head to get an idea of the neck here, and we've got a finished portrait.